At nights before going to sleep or while watching outside in the evenings, we often feel many regrets. These situations always drag us back to our old memories. We get stuck in the mistakes we made in the past. Our body is in the present, but our mind is in that moment. As you understand, the pleasures and happiness taken from the past are nothing but illusions. A person's being stuck in the past and ignoring the beauties in front of them is the greatest injustice they can do to themselves. Hello, this is Kaxer. Today we will examine, summarize, and comment on an animated film called Meet the Robinsons. Although the Robinson family may seem quite normal at first, it is an underrated animated film that has not been much appreciated due to its social criticisms and villains. For more animations or quality cartoon content like this, what you need to do is like the video, comment, and subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Even though I am new here, I will try to keep my content as high quality as possible. Anyway, let's get to the video. Now, maybe most of you don't remember the animated film Meet the Robinsons. It was released in 2007 and isn't a very well-known animation. Let me explain this work without boring you, and then we will move on to the comments. At the center of the animated film is a young, intelligent, and invention enthusiast boy named Louis. Louis was left at an orphanage by his mother when he was a baby, and from that day until now, people have tried to adopt him. But as you see, Louis could never be adopted because of the failures of his inventions. These failures caused him to be rejected exactly 124 times. And while arguing with his caretaker on the roof, he suddenly decides to invent something to find his mother and starts working on it. Meanwhile, Mike Yagoobian, also known as Goob, who is his roommate, is helping him with the invention. But because of the noises Louis makes while inventing, Goob can't sleep and goes sleepless to a baseball game. At that moment, Louis sets off to present his invention, and a black-haired boy tells him his invention is in danger and will be sabotaged, saying he came from the future to protect him. And indeed, Louis's invention is sabotaged by a hat and stolen by a person nicknamed Bowler Hat Guy. Angry, Louis goes to the roof where a boy named Wilbur convinces him he came from the future by taking him there with a time machine, and tells him he no longer needs to fix his invention and that he can see his mother with this time machine. An argument breaks out and the time machine falls to the ground. Louis agrees with Wilbur that if Wilbur repairs the time machine, he will take him to his mother, and they take the time machine to the garage while Wilbur goes to get the drafts. Meanwhile, Louis meets all of Wilbur's family members. Also, Bowler Hat Guy tries to present the invention as his own, but fails because he doesn't know how to operate it, and is dismissed. Then, Bowler Hat Guy goes to kidnap Louis to show him how to operate it. While waiting for Louis, we see Goob, who is exhausted and has a swollen eye. Goob says Louis is his stupid roommate, but that his own name is Mike Yagoobian. And today, people insult him with names like loquat, face, incompetent, and stupid, but says having more nicknames is a good thing. When Goob says Louis might be on the roof, always sitting there silently, Bowler Hat Guy is about to leave, but feels sorry for Goob's condition and says, "People always want you to forget, but you don't. Let your mind try to be evil and bad," which is a bad example for Goob. When they get to the roof and don't find Louis, they realize he went to the future and follow him there. At that moment, Louis is trying to repair a space machine, but fails.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Keep moving forward.
I mean, this stuff is way too advanced for me.
Keep moving forward.
And what if I can't fix this? What are we gonna do?
Keep moving forward.
Also, Wilbur's mother invites them to dinner. And when they sit at the table, she asks Louis to take off his hat, which causes Wilbur to start a food fight. When it's time for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the machine doesn't work. And when Uncle Joe feels sick, Louis tries to fix the machine but fails. Everyone congratulates him and is happy he didn't succeed, motivating Louis by saying, You learn from failure. You cannot learn from success, emphasizing the beauty of perseverance and failures. Then, a tall man with a long hat brings a dinosaur from the future to kidnap Lewis, but the Robinson family defeats them and invites Lewis to join their family. When Wilbur takes off Lewis's hat, they reject Lewis. When Lewis says, "If I have to return, can I at least see my mother? Wilbur promised me." Wilbur says, "No, actually, I wouldn't have been able to do that," which makes Lewis angry and walk away. He then goes with Bowler Hat Guy to see his mother in exchange for joining him. When they enter an old building, Bowler Hat Guy asks Lewis to show how the invention works. And when Lewis shows, he is tied up. And it is revealed that Bowler Hat Guy is actually Mike Yagoobian. Goob, who dreamed of winning the championship in the minor league, couldn't sleep during the game because of Lewis's noise while inventing and caused the team to lose the game and got beaten. He thought people were after him, and because of some reasons, no one adopted him, so he grew up in the orphanage until now. Even when the orphanage was abandoned, he lived there alone and witnessed all of Lewis's successes. One day, he says it's not his fault, and that if Lewis hadn't made noise that day, he wouldn't have missed that shot, and wants to take revenge on Lewis, thus meeting the hat. Wilbur and a servant robot rescue Lewis from them with the invention, but the hat makes a hole in the robot and takes the invention again, going to the future. Lewis repairs the time machine and goes to Goob, saying the hat used him and would get rid of him after the job was done. He says to the hat, "I never invented you," and erases him. Lewis takes Goob with him and goes to the future and convinces Wilbur to accept him into the family. But Goob quietly leaves. Later, Lewis meets his future self and asks if they found his mother. Wilbur says he has to learn that and takes him to the fair. But Wilbur keeps his promise and takes Lewis to his mother. Lewis gives up on that and says he already has a family, goes to the science fair, succeeds, gets adopted, and they move to the house where they will live in the future. Also, apparently, Goob won the game. At the end of the film, Walt Disney's words, "Around here, however, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths." Close the film. All right, now there's a lot to talk about. First of all, the animation styles were really beautiful, especially for 2007. I really liked the graphics. The iconic nature of the characters was amazing. Honestly, another animated movie with Wilbur and Lewis wouldn't look out of place. The production was largely inspired by William Joyce's work A Day with Wilbur Robinson, as seen in these visuals. However, the production only took the main characters and general theme, meaning most of the story was originally written by Disney. But alongside such beautiful graphics, there is also the deeply suffering character Goob. I associate Goob's experiences with the Joker's one bad day philosophy. The Joker wants to quit his old job and become a stand-up comedian, but fails, then learns his wife is pregnant and needs money. He collaborates with criminals, but when he hears about the death of his wife and unborn child, he wants to quit, though the villains don't allow it. And during a robbery, he meets Batman and falls into a chemical waste pool, changing completely. He lost his family and mutated, reaching his emotional limit in one day. These problems were his emotional threshold, and he gradually goes insane, arguing madness is the most logical reaction to the world. Goob has experienced the same thing, losing the baseball game in one day and falling into a big emptiness. On the other hand, let's look at Lewis. He was rejected 124 times from adoption, but never gave up and achieved beyond what he wanted. For example, Goob should have hated Lewis instead. He could have used his inventions for evil or harmed the world, just like Heinz Doofenshmirtz. When we compare Lewis and Goob, we see one person keeps moving forward, while the other is a sailor anchored at the shore. If Goob had forgotten that day and kept moving, he might have gotten better places if he was talented. because staying on that day brought no gain and slowly corrupted him inside, which showed on his appearance. Louis, as mentioned, suffered huge difficulties, was rejected many times, and his inventions failed. But he never gave up and became the founder of a big city. Life wouldn't be worth living if it were easy. Why did Goob leave? Goob didn't join the Robinson family because he thought he didn't deserve it. When Goob loses his hatred for Louis, he looks around oddly and realizes he wasted his time and exhausted himself, albeit late. That's why he thinks he doesn't deserve to join the Robinson family and leaves. The film also has a good social critique. As seen in the animation, Louis is a genius way above average, but despite his genius, society didn't really accept him. He doesn't seem to have a social life and was rejected by 124 people. Why is that? Because people tend to exalt sports more than smart kids or science. I'm not saying this just to be marginal, but sports like football and athletes make so much money. For example, Nikola Tesla's contribution to humanity and science is priceless. Yet, despite all his help, he died alone and poor in New York on January 7th, 1943. In his last days, he couldn't find investments for his projects, had to live on debts and hotels, and died quietly. There are many scientists like him. For example, a football player's annual salary is hundreds of times more than the highest paid scientist. That was all I wanted to say. As you understand, the animated film Meet the Robinsons was a work with much bigger meanings than you think. Yes, it isn't an animation that requires hours or separate videos, but what it tells is short and concise. Don't forget to support for more videos.